Parents of daughters with OnlyFans, how did you first discover what they were doing and how did you feel about it? In the 90s, I worked a slightly above minimum wage job with a girl who started stripping at night. She ended up buying a brand new Mustang convertible, which her dad often borrowed, showing it off as if it were his own. The funny part? He had no idea what she did after hours and just assumed she was great at managing money. It must take some next-level financial wizardry to turn a 650-hour wage from a 14-20-hour work week into car payments for a shiny new ride. In my 20s, I dated 2 strippers. The first one was absolutely loaded. Every night after work, she'd ask what my roommates and I wanted to eat and buy it for us, along with top-shelf liquor, beer, and weed. She covered absolutely everything when we went out, no questions asked. The second was even more attractive and had a super bubbly personality, but she didn't bring in nearly the cash the first did. Thinking I was being helpful, I mentioned the first girl and suggested she might be at the wrong club. That's when she hit me with the obvious truth. The first wasn't just a dancer. I'm not the parent here, I'm the kid. I create audio for adults, which is essentially role-playing where I talk directly to the listener, guiding them on what to do to themselves or me. It all started when I sent audios to people I was dating, and they loved it so much that I decided to turn it into a business. What's great about audio is that it's incredibly low cost. You can explore any fantasy or scenario, and it's all fueled by imagination. Anyway, my mom kept pestering me about what I do because she noticed I had a lot of money, but from her perspective, I never did anything. She was upset that I had so much free time and wasn't spending it with her. I had my own place, and she was convinced some man must be funding my lifestyle because there was no way I could support myself. Though, in a way, she's right. My clients are essentially bankrolling me. I tried to dodge her questions, but one day she backed me into a corner and wouldn't drop it. Finally, I told her the truth. I sell audio. I spend my days writing scripts, recording, and editing. That's where my money comes from, and that's how I spend my time. My life has consistently been the opposite of what she envisioned for me. Every time she discovers something new about me that she doesn't like, she reacts the same way. She pretends the conversation never happened and clings to her own fantasy version of my life. When she sees my pagan jewelry, she says, "I'm so glad you're a good Christian girl." When she met my girlfriend, she commented, "You're going to find a good Christian man someday." And when I told her about my audio, she said, "I'm so glad you don't have to work anymore and can just relax and enjoy your hobbies." My friends all know about my work, and it's just part of normal conversations or venting. Some have even guest starred in my audios out of curiosity. A few have asked for help starting their own, but they changed their minds once they realized how much effort it takes. Very few people have seen my account or know my stage name, and my parents have never listened to my audios. I'm careful to stay anonymous because early on, I wasn't as cautious and had some scary encounters with fans who tracked me down. My wife and I have been making custom fetish videos since 2008. We're a husband and wife team, and we told our parents about it a long time ago. My mom and dad were surprisingly fine with it. They're mostly just shocked at what people are willing to pay for and the kinds of things they want to see. My wife's dad, on the other hand, wasn't thrilled at first. These days, though, he's okay with it as long as we don't go into too much detail. We don't appear in many videos anymore, but we still produce dozens every month. When I told my grandpa, he was completely baffled. He started stuttering and was like, "Wait, what?" I ended up showing him a few pictures, and his reaction was priceless. "Jesus Christ, I thought you were the good one." I pointed to a photo on the wall of him as a young man on a Navy carrier holding a Playboy magazine and said, "Grandpa, that's you right there." His response, "That's normal." I only told him because he kept asking how work was, and I hate lying to people. The most awkward moment, though, was when my son, who isn't my wife's biological child, found out. He was 15 at the time and had a very negative reaction, saying some demeaning things about my wife. That led to a heated talk, to put it lightly. And no, for the record, I didn't hit him. It was just a loud argument that neither of us handled well. Thankfully, things are fine now. He's 26, and we occasionally talk about some of the stranger content I'm producing these days. I used to work with a guy whose girlfriend was a stripper. She was really attractive and only worked 2 nights a week, Friday and Saturday, for about 4 hours each night. Despite the short hours, she easily made $2,000 a weekend. And this was in the early 90s, so that kind of money could easily cover an entire month's expenses back then. A cousin of mine got into the same line of work, and when her dad found out, he wasn't upset at first because it helped cover her rent. However, things changed when he discovered she was also working as a stripper a few days each month. Her only response was, "How did he think I paid for the trips I go on?" I was catching up with a cousin, and he told me he just found out his daughter had an OnlyFans and was also working at a strip club. Naturally, I expected him to be upset, and he was, but not for the reason you'd think. He said it completely ruined strip clubs for him. He couldn't look at the dancers the same way anymore and knew he'd never enjoy them again. Other than that, he didn't seem to mind. I used to work with a girl who showed me her earnings from 9 months on OnlyFans, $72,000. I saw this directly on her account, so it was legit. We didn't live in a major city, and while she wasn't unattractive, she wasn't stunning either. Average looking with no chin. Her personality, though, was super cool. Her account was mostly professional photos, but she told me she also took requests. I didn't ask what those entailed or how far she went with them, so I have no idea what she was doing behind the scenes. She eventually quit OnlyFans and was furious about it. Tax season hit, and she said they screwed her over. She owed a little over $4,000 in taxes and couldn't pay it because she was broke. That's why she got a regular job to pay off her tax bill. I couldn't help but think it didn't make sense. She could have just set money aside for taxes as she earned, but hey, not my business. I've heard prettier girls complain they don't make much on OnlyFans, but they often had bad attitudes. Maybe this girl did well because she was down to earth, or maybe she was willing to go further with custom videos. Who knows? For context, this was during the early days of the pandemic, so demand for OnlyFans content was probably higher back then. My 24-year-old daughter made the decision to get married at 18 and become a stripper. She was upfront about her choice, saying she loved the money and attention. We live in a small city in Ohio where gentlemen's clubs are popular and gossip travels fast. There was no way to keep it under wraps. We eventually learned about her OnlyFans and other services through her teenage brothers and parents of their friends who came across her content. The fallout has been devastating, especially for her brothers, who've struggled with the embarrassment. While I've tried to love and support her, it's something I've had to do from a distance. Socially, it's been humiliating knowing that half the county has either seen her content or paid for her services. To make matters worse, my husband's uncle unknowingly became one of her customers before realizing who she was. This whole situation has made it hard for me to view men in a positive light. I've gone through every emotion. Crying, blaming myself, trying to steer her toward college, getting angry. Now, I've reached a point where I feel completely checked out. She's chosen to put herself out there for what she sees as an easy lifestyle, and I've realized I can't change that. It's a hard thing to come to terms with as a parent. My former boss's daughter had an OnlyFans, and once it became common knowledge at work, he didn't shy away from the topic. In fact, he even shared a link to her Instagram. There was a rumor going around that one of our coworkers was in one of her videos, which only added to the buzz. I'm sure he wasn't thrilled about the whole situation, but since it was already out in the open, his attitude seemed to be, screw it, at least she's making money. My daughter accidentally sent the wrong video to the family group chat. While I'm a bit disappointed, I have to admit I initially thought she was into something far worse, since she always had money but no job. I just hope this doesn't create any long-term consequences for any future careers she might want to pursue. That said, at least she's making her own money now and not relying on me anymore, so there's a silver lining. I'm not the parent, and I don't have an OnlyFans anymore, but my dad found out about it because I went to show him something else on my phone and he started swiping through my photos. It was a lesson learned for both of us, honestly. Now, I always hold my phone when showing him anything, and he knows not to touch it. I've also become super organized with my photos, sorting everything into albums so people only see exactly what I want them to. He wasn't thrilled when he found out, but it didn't affect our relationship at all. We mostly just don't bring it up. I did cam modeling in my early 20s, about 10 years ago. Even though I took every precaution to block people from my area, once folks found out what I did, they figured out ways to bypass those restrictions. One night, someone leaked a clip from one of my live streams to Facebook. I was in lingerie, mostly just talking in a suggestive way. This was before Facebook had tight controls like it does now. The comments started rolling in, with people saying things like, "Wow, her dad must be so proud." Eventually, someone tagged my dad, and he responded with, "She's 23, she's served our country, she has a career outside of this side gig she does online, and she's a good person. My daughter is completely independent and confident just the way I raised her to be. And let's be honest, some of you do much worse for free." My dad absolutely shut everyone down. He's always been my biggest supporter. I know 3 people who are into creating OnlyFans content, and each has a unique story. The first is a stunning Muslim girl I used to date. After we stopped seeing each other, she began with subtle, barely revealing pictures that didn't show her face. But as people demanded more, including her face in explicit content, she realized that going further earned her significantly more money. Eventually, her content transitioned to full-on adult films. She kept this hidden from her very strict Muslim family, but one day, her mom walked into her room and saw her OnlyFans earnings displayed on her laptop. Her mom asked what OnlyFans was, and when she explained, her mom told her dad. By the next day, she was kicked out of her family home. She hasn't spoken to them in over 3 years, but she's now in a good place and making a lot of money. The second is a girl who creates content for OnlyFans. She often shares snippets on Snapchat, asking for reassurance about her work. She came clean to her family after buying them a new car when their old one started having issues. Her dad refuses to acknowledge what she does, but her mom is fairly supportive as long as she stays safe. The third person is my cousin. During Christmas in 2019, we were messing around with taking funny photos of everyone and modifying them with effects, removing hair, making people look old or like babies. At one point, she accidentally pressed the back button twice on her phone's gallery. That's when I saw some very revealing photos of her. Legs spread with topless shots with her hand in her panties. My reaction was just an awkward "oh," while hers was quickly closing the app and going silent. On her phone's home screen, I noticed the OnlyFans app icon in the corner. She didn't say anything, but eventually got up and said she was getting a drink. I followed her to the kitchen and reassured her not to worry, telling her it didn't bother me. I even admitted that I've sent and received similar photos. It's not a big deal. I asked if her family knew, and she said no, though she'd had a close call when her sister almost walked in while she was recording herself on the bed. She was so mortified that I'd seen the photos, but I couldn't help struggling to hold back a laugh. I asked how much she was making, and even though she'd only been doing it for 6 months, she was already earning $2,000 a month. No one else in the family knows about it, and I even helped her set up her phone so that her photos are automatically hidden. I, 18F, and my identical twin sister, also 18F obviously, have always had a rocky and competitive relationship. We've fought about everything. Guys, clothes, friends, you name it. But things completely blew up a few weeks ago when a mutual male friend of ours sent me a link to an OnlyFans profile with the message, "Is this you?" Confused, I clicked the link and was stunned to find that the account belonged to my twin sister. The profile picture was unmistakably her, dressed provocatively, and the username was my nickname, the one everyone in my life uses. I asked our friend about it, and he explained that he had found the account on Twitter, subscribed to it, and saw dozens of explicit videos of her, some solo and others with partners, all with her face fully visible. I was absolutely furious. Feeling betrayed and panicked, I showed the profile to our parents. After all, anyone who saw it and knew us would immediately think it was me since she was using my nickname. Our parents made her delete the account, and now she refuses to talk to me. She's accusing me of ruining her primary income source and betraying her trust. But from my perspective, she's the one who broke my trust by using my nickname for something so public.